They were gone for 90 seconds. What happened in those 90 seconds is still the thing they talk about when anyone asks how it happened. Margot and James Callister had a 5-year-old golden retriever named Sonny, who had, in 5 years of being Sonny, never once done anything that required explanation. He fetched, he greeted, he lay on the back porch in the summer, and the living room rug in the winter, and occupied his days in the particular contentment of a dog who has found the life it was suited for and settled into it completely. He was not a complicated animal. He was a fundamentally good one. When Vivian arrived, he met her at the car seat on the kitchen floor with his nose, took one careful sniff, and walked to his rug. Margot and James had worried about this moment for months. It took 12 seconds and produced no complications. He gave them the gift, in those first weeks, of being exactly what they needed him to be: quiet, present, undemanding, content to be in whatever room the family was in without making any particular claim on it. Vivian was 3 weeks old when it happened. It was a Sunday afternoon in February. Margot had laid Vivienne on the living room rug, on a folded yellow blanket, the kind of supervised floor time that the pediatrician and the internet both recommended, tummy time with attention, but with Vivienne on her back, because she was 3 weeks old and tummy time was still weeks away from being on the agenda. Margot had positioned her carefully, checked the blanket edges, and then realized she had left the nursing pillow in the bedroom. James was in the kitchen. She said she'd be right back and went down the hall. 90 seconds, 18:09 actually, based on what the camera in the living room showed. The camera was a standard home security monitor, low resolution, installed not for the baby, but for the dog sitter who came on Thursdays. Margot had forgotten it was running. What it showed was this. At the 3-second mark after Margot left the room, Sonny got up from his rug. At the 8-second mark, he walked to Vivian and stood beside her, looking down. At the 12-second mark, he lowered his body. Not dramatically, not quickly. He lowered himself slowly, front legs first, the deliberate controlled motion of a large dog trying to take up minimum space. He settled beside Vivian on the yellow blanket, pressed close but not touching her. His chin went down on the blanket beside her head. His body curved slightly inward toward her. He did not move for the remaining 77 seconds until Margot returned. When Margot came back into the room, the scene was what the scene was. A 3-week-old baby on a yellow blanket and a golden retriever lying beside her with his chin on the blanket and his eyes toward the door. Margot thought, "Oh, that is sweet." She did not initially think, that is something else entirely. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She told her sister about it that evening. Her sister said, "Did you see it happen?" Margot said, "No, I came back and they were already like that." Her sister said, "How do you know he didn't just walk over there?" Margot thought about it. She said, "I guess I don't, but it felt deliberate." Her sister said, "You should check the camera." She checked the camera. She watched it 3 times before she called James to watch it. They stood together in the kitchen watching it on her phone. The moment Sonny rises from his rug 3 seconds after Margot leaves the room. The careful walk across the living room. The slow, controlled lowering of that large amber body beside the tiny person on the yellow blanket. The chin going down, the eyes moving to the door. He watched the door the entire time. James, who was not given to dramatic statements, said he was guarding her. Margot sent the footage to her sister. Her sister sent it to 3 people. By Thursday, it had been shared within their extended family circle with captions that said things like, "This dog," and "I am not okay." Margot's cousin, who was a pediatric home nurse with 12 years of experience, watched it and said nothing for a long moment, and then said, "He knew she wasn't supposed to be alone. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." The veterinary behavioral researcher who later reviewed the footage as part of a study on protective behavior in bonded domestic dogs said that what Sunny had exhibited was a version of what the literature called proximity guarding in the absence of the primary caregiver, a behavior documented in wolves, in certain primate species, and increasingly in domestic dogs with established bonds to infant family members. The dog detects the absence of the caregiver. It detects the vulnerability of the infant. It moves to close the gap. She said, "This was not random. This was not coincidental. He was not looking for warmth or comfort. He walked across the room because she was alone, and he stayed until she wasn't." The footage was 89 seconds long. Vivian is 2 years old now. She calls Sunny by name, which is Sunny, and she says it as though it is the most important word she knows, which perhaps at 2 years old it is. She does not know what happened on the yellow blanket on a Sunday afternoon in February, when she was 3 weeks old. She does not need to know yet. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Margot still has the footage. She kept it in a folder on her phone and never deleted it, which is unusual for her. She is not a person who keeps things. She keeps this one because of the specific 12-second sequence in which a 5-year-old golden retriever stands up from his rug and walks across a living room toward a 3-week-old baby lying alone on a yellow blanket, and lowers himself slowly and carefully to lie beside her, because he knew she wasn't supposed to be alone. And that is the whole sentence. The next story is about a dog who walked into a room and sat down and would not be moved, and what was in that room that no one had noticed. Stay with us.